Live from all over this beautiful land, this is the Testosterone Zone with the fine men, Noel, Keith, and Steve. Take it, boys!
And welcome to episode 51. This is Noel. I'm here with Keith and Steve and our special guest, Billy, today. How you doing, guys?
Doing good.
Great.
Excellent. Well, we are excited to have Billy with us. Keith, you want to introduce him?
Yes. So Billy, I have known Billy for years. That wasn't the internet cutting out. That was just me not wanting to admit how old we are. Billy and I met, interestingly enough, I was talking kind of about the freshman year experience last week, I guess. We met doing orientation at Texas Tech University. When I was working on the orientation group, Billy was one of the folks that after I kind of became a master's degree leader in the Dean of Students office, he came on board to be part of the orientation crew. So that's how I got to know him. And I tell you, he's one of those guys that if he walks in the room lightens up. He's always positive. Everybody loves seeing Billy, and he's just been an awesome blessing to my life to have as a friend. So, man, I am so glad you're here.
Well, thanks. Keith.
Yeah,
Appreciate that,
I mean every word of it. You are an outstanding guy, and I'm so glad to have you. I've been looking forward to this episode for a long time. So,
absolutely. Thank you.
So, tell us a little bit. There's a couple of things that we're going to talk about in this episode. One is that this being the opening weekend, so to speak, of college baseball,
right?
We'd like to talk to you a little bit. You are one of the main members of a group called the Tech Hecklers,
right?
And I want you to talk a little bit about what the Tech Hecklers are, and then we're going to get into another thing that's kind of a career for you, and that's the college admissions process.
Sure.
And so I'm going to turn this over to you first. Let's talk heckling first.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about this group, how this came to be, and give us some philosophies on the art of heckling. Go for it.
Sure. Well, first off, thanks for having me, guys. I was looking forward to this too after y'all contacted me about doing
Absolutely.
this.
Thanks for being here.
Absolutely, man.
Oh, man.
Love the podcast. I'm not quite caught up yet, but I did listen to the Fiddy episode last week.
Nice.
So,
hey, thanks for listening.
Sure. It's I have some trips coming up, and y'all just make the time go by on when you're driving to Dallas or wherever. And so it's great having you guys in the car just to make that long drive much more bearable. So I think it's your voice, Keith.
Thanks, man.
Sure. But as far as the hecklers, if you don't know, Keith, I know you know Chris, but
oh yes,
Chris is basically the founder, the guru, if you want to call it that, from El Paso, and basically went to Diablo's games down there with his dad, and when he came to Lubbock in the late '80s to become a student at Texas Tech, he tried out for the team, didn't quite make it. Our coach back then, Larry Hayes, kind of kindly told him that his place was probably better in the stands. And so he kind of migrated there, and then just started having fun with opposing teams, coaches, etc. And then he was by himself for a little bit, and then other people started joining up with him. A professor that I know well, Bill Gustafson, sat with him in those early years, and then more and more people joined the group as the 90s moved along. And so really the philosophy of the group is just to have fun at baseball games. I know that sounds kind of basic, but that really is kind of what the group does. There's a lot of inside jokes and a lot of stories that we go into, whenever we get together. But really, that's kind of how the group started. Was Sneed was in the stands, and he has that loud voice that you just can't ignore. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense. You can hear him from across the room and definitely across the ballpark, and he can definitely project. And he just loved giving people grief, and we try to do it in good fun. Mm-hmm. Obviously, some people aren't always going to be a fan of what we do, but it's something that it's just a group of people that first off love Texas Tech and love the game of baseball. And a lot of the people in the group just have a ton of baseball knowledge, and that's part of what we do. And it's kind of a almost an unlikely group of friends that have kind of come together over the last 15, 20 years. I came to the group when I was a student, just about the time that I met you, Keith, at orientation. That probably that spring before. Some buddies of mine in the residence halls said, "Hey, you need to come out and hang out with us at Danlaw Field." And so I was like, "Sure." And they had back then, they had just like they do now, they had pizza and free shirts. And so I was like, "Hey, that's
we're in." Yeah,
exactly. And so kind of went to a couple of games, and just had a great time. It's a great way to pass an afternoon. I know that Tech football is always going to be the biggest sport on campus, but I'll tell you, there's nothing like a random afternoon, whether it's a Tuesday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, just sitting up there in the stands and eating a bag of peanuts or getting a hot dog, and now for the first time getting a beer. And so
yeah.
So that's something that's a lot of fun. It's a great experience to go to those games.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, we all love it. I guarantee the people who don't really love it are probably the opposing team.
Right. Right.
The idea.
Right. We just, I think the thing with Heckling, you kind of asked about philosophy and everything. I think y'all have been to your share of sporting events, whether it's Tech or otherwise pro. There's always somebody yelling about something, right? You go there, and even at Tech games, inevitably somebody will start yelling about the referees or about the umpires, about the officials. To us, and that's fine, and that's part of any sporting event, right? But I think our philosophy is there's a give and take with Heckling. There's a you pick your spots, and it's not about just yelling to yell or yelling all the time. You have to feel what's going on in the game. Like last year, we had our super regional against Duke before we went to Omaha last year, and it was a Saturday game. We had won the Friday game, and Duke took it to us. I think it was like 11-2, and it was a Saturday night that was kind of just muggy in Lubbock, and it was that you just didn't want to be out there after a while, I guess, and just because of the weather, not because of what was going on necessarily.
Sure.
But Duke had, I think they were up 11-2, and we were just, it was kind of quiet. Again, you pick your spots, and a lot of people started filing out because they knew that there was going to be a game the next day, and that was going to be, a big game for Tech. And Duke scored in one of the later innings, and as the guy that scored crossed after he passed home plate, he basically kind of turned to the stands in our direction and basically told us to be quiet, and made that motion with his finger. And so of course we went ballistic. And basically went after, kind of just started responding to him, and every time he came up to bat, and obviously the next day. And so we would basically shush him as he came up to the plate because he had done that. And so there was some fun with that, and he probably wasn't having fun the next day because Tech won. But that was a good example to me of just kind of, hey, you're not just yelling all the time. You're trying to find a place, to do that. And so, this over the years, the group has, when we were really more organized, we're not as organized anymore because you all know life gets in the way, and many of us, have kids that are either in college or a little bit younger, and so it's kind of. Back in the 90s, we were more organized. We had shirts, we had a shirt rotation, like we were an actual team or something, where we wore a shirt. We had a shirt for every single game, and then a lot of heckling is kind of knowing information, whether it's current events, movies, songs, and also about the other team. And so the way we did that was we had some folks that would basically, part of what they did during the week of a series was they would print out media guides for the opposing team. And so a lot of these had bios for other teams. And so you would see a lot of information that was provided because this is what was posted on team websites, and also provided to media outlets, things of that nature. And so a lot of information sometimes became useful through that.
Right, yeah.
Like there was one guy from U of H in the early 2000s that for some reason, and he probably believed, it was probably his favorite, but he put down that his favorite song was a Jennifer Lopez song. So of course we picked up on that, and I started yelling the lyrics in the stands to him as he came up to the plate, because that was, he had mentioned that, and I think sometimes the players are like, how did they know?
Oh, I'm sure
what I like and don't like, and because they were because we had done our research, and so that was part of the fun, was trying to figure out some information to utilize. There's a bunch of stuff that we've done over the years. Well, before I even joined the group, there was a quarterback / outfielder that I think he was on UT and UT's baseball team that year as well, and he had come up to Lubbock, and it happened to be the day of the NFL draft. And so of course Snead gets up there with his loud voice and basically tells him, that, hey, the Falcons called, they didn't pick you. The Oilers called, they didn't pick you. And so kind of went on with that and it was actually at the same time as the actual draft. The draft was going on at that same time, which made it really, really funny.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, man.
That's great.
That's awesome.
And a lot of it, we have some routines that kind of come from just being together as a group. Keith, if you were an opposing batter and you had come to Lubbock and had a really miserable weekend where you went like 1 for 15, we'd let you know it. We would sing a song to you. We would say, Keith came to Lubbock, EI, 1 for 15, something like that. And just kind of have some fun with it. And again, it's not meant to be mean. Some folks don't necessarily agree, but it is in good spirits and good fun. And we have a lot of fun with each other. I would bet that when you have a group like this that tends to just joke all the time, that the stuff that we rag on each other about it happens way more within the group than any opposing player or coach that Tech has ever played. And so I kind of have a bigger than normal head, and I can't tell you the creativity involved with big head jokes that these guys come up with, because every year it's something new, and I always marvel at how creative they are. And it is me. I mean, I've been with them for 15, 20 years, sitting in the same spot, and so and they still find a way to kind of crack on me about that.
Well, I tell you what, one of the things that I think is so phenomenal is you all really do a good job of picking up on nuances of something that's like a habit of the opposing team. Like we were watching, it was on TV, and you guys picked up, and I don't remember, it was one of the regional games. I think it was last year, that one of the pitchers would have this like stutter step before, like he was digging in, but he'd have this little stutter step before he did the windup. Do you remember that? And so you guys would start numbering it. How many times? Like 1, 2, 3, 4. And then after like 2 or 3 innings, you'd start doing it in a different language, and you'd hear you guys going, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then ich, ni, and it was starting going to Japanese. And I mean, my son was cracking up. He thought that was the funniest thing. And that's why he was like, I've got to meet these guys. So thank you all for being so hospitable. He got to meet you all last year, and thank you.
Yeah, I remember that. I'm glad he had a good time.
We talked about that every day. But anyway, yeah. So I love the little nuances that you pick up on opposing people just to get in their head. I think that's great.
Right. Well, and I think part of that key, like I said, well, first off, I was never an athlete of any kind, as you probably already know. But some of the guys and some of the ladies in the group are or were, and so we have some guys that I think have forgotten more baseball than I know. And so we have former players, we have people who were umpires. And so they pick up on, they know a lot of the stuff that happens. And baseball is just, a game of, to me, it's infinite strategy. There's always something going on that you're like, why are we doing this, or why are we not doing this? And so, I mean, even though I've been going to games for as long as I have, every year there's something that I'm like, hey, what's going on here? Why is this happening? This particular situation. And so a lot of that is because the people that sit there with us just know. They've been there, either through their playing days, or we have some guys that have worked the broadcast booth for Tech baseball. And so they're just really in tune with the game, and that definitely helps when you're trying to make some jokes about what's going on sometimes, because it kind of falls flat if you didn't know what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Billy, do y'all get the opposing players? Do they ever respond to you? Which is probably that's probably the dumbest thing that they could do. But do you
Yeah,
ever get any of them that like
yeah.
look up at y'all and make
Every
faces and
once in a while, like that
gestures?
that player from Duke last year, he just, it was simple. It was a quick little gesture, but obviously he meant to do it. And and
Yeah,
a lot of players laugh it off. They, these guys, even though they're amateurs still, they've played sports long enough, and they've played sports outside of being little league or whatnot, that they know that there's going to be some people
yeah,
just yelling stuff. And but yes, we do get some players that sometimes engage, and a lot of them will laugh it off though. They'll acknowledge. They'll be like, what, that was a good one. They'll kind of laugh and shake their head, and we'll give them a round of applause for acknowledging it. But yeah, it does happen from time to time. Nothing too crazy, because like I said, we try to,
nothing too
our
bad.
tone isn't to be mean spirited. It's to have some fun, and make people laugh, and that's really kind of the main objective of the group.
That's good. That's good.
That's awesome. Billy, the Tech Hecklers, she says, has been around about 20 years
Coming
now?
up
How
on,
long?
well, with Sneed started about 87, 88. So probably,
All right, so
yeah,
she
coming
worked
up on 30, I guess,
30
with
plus.
him. And so most of us have been in the group
Wow.
15, 20 years, since the late 90s for the majority of
Yeah.
the folks that
Yeah.
are there now.
So are y'all still adding, like current students to the group? And
We try, every once in a while we'll have some folks kind of come in, and really it's just, you just have to have a good knowledge of baseball. You have to, have a good sense of humor and a good sense of timing. I think timing is everything with what we do, and so because you have to know when to say something and how often to say something. We
Yeah.
have we have what we call the 10 Commandments of heckling, and let me see what number it is. There's commandment number 6 basically says, "Thou shalt be witty." That if you're the only one laughing at something that you've said, well, that wasn't really very funny. And so, but we definitely try to. We have certain rules that we follow. Profanity is definitely avoided because this is a family atmosphere. There's kids running around, and that's the way it should be. That's the way baseball is.
That's good.
Baseball
That's
is,
good,
to
yeah.
me, the ultimate sport that kids can enjoy, in my opinion.
Totally.
I say that, but
And
I
family.
can't get my own daughters to enjoy it. They prefer going to basketball games.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, it's definitely something that we don't use profanity. We don't use jokes about family members, parents, or whatever. We try to keep it clean, and again, some people don't like what we do still, because we do joke around with people, but we try to keep it in a friendly way.
That's good.
I've kind of got to thinking about that when I went to a lot of Diablos
Right.
games too, and I'm going to have to talk with Chris about this someday, because there was a guy I've never gotten permission to talk about him on the show. He was one of my favorites. He was kind of the rally guy for the Diablos games, and his daughters actually went to Tech with us.
Oh, okay.
And I'm just curious if he was ever. I'm going to ask him someday if he was influenced by this guy, because he was one of the best that I'd ever seen in my minor league games. So it's kind of funny to think that. I wonder if that was kind of a tie into what gave him some inspiration.
Right.
Pretty funny.
Right.
I'll have to ask him about that someday. So now he has written a book too on heckling. I've seen that. So
he is. It's called The Bleacher Bible, and it's actually not in print right now. It's sitting at $100 on Amazon. So
Wow.
But he basically in the 90s, Chris basically compiled just stories, heckles, jokes that he kind of put together into a book, and so he's mentioned doing a volume 2 one of these days, but he hasn't got around to it yet. So, but yes, there is a book out there. It has it has our 10 commandments in there that we have as far as what we observe out there when we're at the ballpark. And so, yes, it's definitely available.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm gonna have to get that. It's pretty awesome.
What's your thoughts on how the team's going to do this season?
I think there's a lot of promise. Definitely do. There's a lot of talent coming back. A lot of talent that Coach Tadlock has recruited, and him and his staff. It's a loaded team. There's a lot of youth, which can cause some people are sometimes get concerned about that. But you have speed. You have power. You have an All-American candidate at third base that will likely be if not the highest draft pick that Tech has ever had in the Major League Draft, Josh Young, and so definitely,
Guy's a beast.
Yeah, he's good. He's one of those that you just don't see every day as the kind of player that he is, and so got two good starters from last year back, and then basically filling in the rest with some newcomers and some folks that didn't play quite as much last year, but and some good freshmen. We have some guys that have some, like I said, some really good speed. It's going to be hard for a baseball to get by our outfielders with the speed that we got out there.
That's good.
Yeah, we're very excited. I mean, obviously, anything can happen, and things happen during a season, and we've been fortunate that the Tech has gone to Omaha, 3 out of the last 5 years, but it's so hard. There have been plenty of other good Texas Tech baseball teams that didn't get there, and not because they weren't talented or whatnot. It's just it takes so much. It's a basic. You have to have a lot of things go your way, from the injury front, from just the way the baseball bounces sometimes, and how your players perform. And so we've been fortunate to be able to do that. With recent success, because it's awesome. I mean, you can feel it in town, that it's around the corner, and nothing against other sports. I mean, everybody's still into the basketball team and they're doing great as well. But you can feel that this team, has the potential for a lot of things, come June.
And it blows my mind too, because I remember last year when the MLB draft was coming out, I was like, holy cow, are we going to have anybody left? I mean, there's so many people that get picked up, and just for Tadlock to be able to continue to reload that team with talent, just blows my mind.
He just knows baseball, and he's just able to connect with all these, with these young athletes. And it's just amazing in what he does. And not just him, but his staff. I've been on a plane with one of our recruiters, J Bob, who is one of the assistant coaches, and just to hear him talk about baseball and about, he was going off to recruit somewhere, and he was just, the way he talked about it, you can just tell this is what this guy is supposed to be doing. If that makes any sense. Just the way he was talking about it, the way he was mentioning this and that about this recruit and what he was doing and what this guy could do for the team. Those kind of conversations that I was like, man, this is why we are where we are, because our coaching staff gets it, and they know how to put it together. And I mean, it's easy. It's one thing to get all the talent together for a team, but it's another to kind of get it all to work in the right direction for 60 plus games during the course of a season.
And he really is if you have a son that's wants to play college baseball, I mean, he's really hard to think of a better guy that you want to, have your son play for.
No, I agree. And, he's got that West Texas demeanor, that dry sense of humor. And I'm sure you all saw the fireside chat with Coach Beard with him. That was tremendous. I mean, we were all laughing, because that was just, it was just both of those guys in their element. I mean, it wasn't like somebody was taking over.
Yes.
They were just them, doing that quick bit. And so that was just awesome. And that's just the way he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the personality of Tech coaches is so great. I mean, even former coaches, you think of Spike Dykes, you think of Mike Leach, you think of, Kingsbury had his own zingers in there, and these guys, Beard and Tadlock, they've got their own personalities that are just second to none. I'm telling you, that was a hilarious fireside chat. It's just, that's what's so fun about Tech athletics, is just the demeanor of the coaches is, I think it's different. I mean, it's different than anywhere else. There's just something about their charisma and their personality that are just so fun.
Right. No, and I agree. And I think that, for all of them, for many, if not all of them, I think that they appreciate what the university is, what the university means, and what the city of Lubbock means. I think, and with Coach Tadlock, he knows, he always talks about the support that his team gets whenever he does his post game shows or his radio show. He always talks about that, and the thing is, he still appreciates that people come out that take time out of their weekend or out of their week to come out and watch his team play.
It's so fun to watch.
So real quick, I hopped on Amazon to look at the Bleacher Bible, and I got to share a couple quotes from here, because they make a few excerpts. So there's one quote, he's ragging a fat guy, says, "Hey, if they could make a curveball look like a cheeseburger, you'd be batting 1,000. I thought that was hilarious. And then on Bad Base Runners, it said, I could take sequence photos of you with a Polaroid camera.
Those are from Sneed for sure.
That's funny, man.
I can almost justify the $100 for this book right now.
If I ever get my hands on a couple other copies, I'll make sure I get them to y'all. So
yeah, hook us up.
Oh, we'd love that.
Billy, have you met the new football coach?
No, not yet. I've not had the chance to yet.
Yeah. So what's your gut so far, though, based on what you've seen, heard?
I mean, I think the it's hard to, because it's hard to say for sure. I think it's incomplete right now. Yeah. If that makes any sense, it's hard to. He's doing the right things, saying the right things, But if I remember correctly, I mean, I think Cliff did that too, and so it's hard to kind of get a gauge. I think he'll do well. I think he understands the area and understands the university, which is always, I think, necessary for success. I think it's some folks are skeptical, and I think he's kind of brought me on board with this, the way he's carried himself, and I think it's going to be a challenge to kind of move from here after the transition, but I think the potential is there. So I'm kind of optimistic as far as what could happen, maybe in year 2, year 3. And then obviously if something happens in year 1, I'll take it.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
I think we all feel that way. He's got a grace period a little bit. But yeah, I hope it's a good.
Yeah, I do too.
I like that he's bought into the Tech culture. He's done that pretty well.
Right.
We lost our receiver coach today, didn't we?
Yes,
I think
did.
so.
Yeah.
I think we did. Yeah, to
Oregon, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. But of course, then I'm just looking at it, and Levitt, the defensive coordinator, is out at Oregon, so I don't know what they're doing up there.
Right.
So,
right.
Just read that.
Wow.
Well, man, Billy, I appreciate all of this history about the last thing I want to find out, though, actually, before we even stop this, is what's the story with the chicken?
Well, we actually get that question a lot, Keith. And so, most people think that when the chicken goes up, when Sneed puts that up there, that something's about to happen, that the Tech's about to rally or put the game away or something like that. It's not the case. It just happens to go up sometimes. There's not a specific rhyme or reason. And so, we've argued different philosophical, is it related to baseball? Is it related to feng shui? Is it related to, some kind of struggle in the universe? And I think at the end, basically we just came to the point that a chicken is a chicken. And so it just goes up there at random times, just whenever he finds whenever the mood strikes Chris for that to go up there.
I think that makes it even more brilliant in my mind. That's awesome.
That's
now the other team's like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen?
Oh no, the chicken's up.
They don't have a clue.
Right.
Oh, Billy, man, this is great. So we're gonna split our interview with you up in 2 episodes. So we're about 30 minutes into this episode. We want to definitely give our listeners a chance to absorb this baseball, the art of heckling, a little bit about the sports of baseball and how to be an awesome fan. So I really appreciate everything that you've been able to share with us about that, and look forward to a good season. Look forward to hearing y'all at the games and on TV. It's always fun to see you guys and hear y'all's laughter and voices and everybody in the crowd chuckling along with you.
Absolutely.
So,
Thank you.
thanks again, man. Appreciate it. I wanted to tell you all, I kind of had an emergency the other day.
Did you really?
Yeah. I accidentally swallowed a bunch of Scrabble tiles. I think my next trip to the bathroom could spell disaster.
That's good.
Oh, man, that's good.
That's a good one. I don't want to go after that.
The Keith delivery is always awesome.
I know.
Did I have the little chuckle? Did I have the hesitant chuckle?
course.
Did I do it again?
Of course.
Yeah,
Dang it.
it's ingrained in your delivery.
Yeah, I've got this thing that they know what's happening, and I can't figure out why I do it. I can't figure out how to stop it, Billy.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds
Yeah.
good, Keith.
Thanks, man.
I'd be disappointed if that ever changed, to be honest. But
Fair
Right,
enough,
right.
fair enough.
Me too.
So-
Don't worry,
Me
I
too.
can't figure out what I'm doing, so it's not going.
Yeah.
so guys, I really have a question, not so much a joke for y'all, but if a cow doesn't produce milk, is it a milk dud or an utter failure?
That's pretty good, man.
Thank you.
That is funny.
So I didn't have anything to drink here at the house. So before the show, I went to go buy 6 cans of Sprite, but I picked 7 up by accident.
That's good.
Nice
That's
job. Nice
funny.
job.
You guys know why you,
Nice one, Billy.
you guys know why you can't hear a pterodactyl go to the bathroom?
Because the P's silent, no?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a recycled one.
Is it
That's a
really?
recycled-
Yeah. I think I told that one a long time ago.
We really need to have a
Like in episode
database.
6.
We're going to have to put up a database, man, because this is getting.
It's really bad. It's really
Yeah.
bad.
It really is getting bad.
Yeah. You guys know what you call cheese by itself?
Oh,
Provolone.
Dang, Steve.
We did that one too.
I think
Did we?
I think you found my website. No.
I'm on the wrong website.
it could have been my website that I found too.
StevesDadJokes.com.
That's right.
Should have known.
While you're searching the internet frantically, did you know monsters aren't good at math
Mm-mm.
unless you count Dracula?
Oh God.
Uh,
God. Jeez.
So what do you call a fake noodle?
oh,
Oh,
that's a good question. I'd like to know.
An impasta.
Hey.
Nice.
Gosh.
Well, I couldn't figure that when I was trying, so I'm like, it's right there. That's a good one.
man.
Hey guys, what do you call 2,000 pounds of Chinese soup?
2,000 pounds. I don't know.
Wonton.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Okay, that's good.
I just saw on the news that a red and blue ship just collided in the Caribbean. Apparently, the survivors are maroon.
Oh man.
We haven't done that one yet, have we?
Man.
No.
Probably for good reason.
Yeah, I think we should close this one out. No, I'll let you take it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Billy. It was great to have you on the show today. We look forward to continuing the conversation with you about college admissions on the next episode. So, thanks again for joining us and talking to us about the heckling. That's hilarious stuff. So,
And thank goodness it's baseball season.
Yes,
No,
I'm ready for
definitely.
it. Bring it on.
they just started spring training. The pitchers and catchers reported yesterday,
Right.
wasn't it, or was it today?
I think it was yesterday, yeah.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah. So we're ready. We got college and pro coming. This is
Definitely.
great.
I love.
Best time of year.
It is the best time of year for sure. So
All right.
awesome.
Well, we'll continue this on in 52. So we look forward to continuing this with you, Billy.
Yep.
Thanks.
All right.
And thanks everybody for listening.
Thanks, everybody.
Ring-a-ding-a-ding-a-ding.
Hey, thanks again for listening to the Testosterone Zone. We sure had a blast visiting with you. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe, leave us some feedback, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram.
All Testosterone podcast episodes are written and produced by Noel, Keith, and Steve unless otherwise noted.
The opinions expressed in the Testosterone podcast are our own and not those of our employers, families, parents, kids, dogs, cats, your mom, or any other entity Noel, Keith, or Steve are affiliated with now, in the past, or in the future, or ever.